We're working on these first 4 questions here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions here. I'll give you a couple more minutes to finish.
Employment would definitely increase, right? Sure. What? Crowding out. I remember this word. Fiscal income. That one. Yeah, I know the word. But I don't know.
Okay, that's what I figured. I just wanted to let you know. So I won't even bubble it.
No, bubble it because I'll just scan them twice. It just, trust me.
I trust you. Bro.
Oh, that's okay.
Probably.
Too late now. Sorry,
Okay. All right, let's go over this first page here.
You're running out of this. They might just go home after this.
All right.
So can we leave after the AP test?
I'm not going to promote that.
We're not gonna.
That means yes.
Okay.
So just do it.
When you're leaving.
But keep in mind there would be absences, and this is before finals, so you got to make sure that doesn't affect your final exemptions. Okay, so on number 4, we have an average supply and demand graph already drawn. Please draw on it. The whole point that that is there, it's for you to use, for you to look at and be like, oh, well, that's nice. Is not relevant. So since I can't draw on the screen, I will draw over here. We have price level, we have GDP or output or Y or Q, however you want to label it. I'll label it Y. We have aggregate demand and we have short run aggregate supply. Long run's not on there. It doesn't need to be for this question. Just keep in mind that we're not going to draw it without it on an FRQ. We would always have long run and FRQ as a reference point to where we are. But here, there's no point here. So it says, according to the graph above, an increase in aggregate supply. Okay, so just draw it. Draw aggregates by increasing and shifting to the right. Don't forget your boops. Your graph on your paper doesn't have boops. Probably add them. So an increase of aggregate supply shifts aggregate supply to the right. Looks like we have lower price level and a higher GDP. Let's see what the question's asking. It's asking about income and employment. What's another way to say income?
GDP.
GDP. GDP. Income and GDP are the same thing. So when it says income, total income is total GDP. So right next to the word income, I would, if I could write on the screen, I would write that means GDP. And don't forget that says employment and not unemployment. A lot of people, I've given this question out before and they read it wrong. They read it as unemployment because that's usually what's asked. So income is going to go up because GDP is going up. And if GDP is going up, so is employment. There's going to be more jobs. So both of these are going to increase. So it should be increase, increase, which is letter E. Okay. Staying up here, let's go to this question number 8. All right. It says, which appropriate fiscal policy to combat a recession? Well, it would be to increase which of the following? Who in here draw little up arrows next to all of your answer choices?
Just one.
You should have. You should have up arrows all of your answer choices so you remember the direction that they're going. If you have not done that, do that now. Add little up arrows to A, B, C, D, and E. So to where it says increase interest rates, increase money supply, increase taxes, increase government spending, and increase the sale of bonds. Okay, so it says fiscal policy. What is A? Monetary policy. Off to the side, write monetary policy, or MP. On B, what is that? Monetary policy. Next to B, write monetary policy. What's C? Fiscal. But is it expansionary or contractionary if we are raising taxes? And to keep in mind that fact that we are raising taxes, that's why drawing a little up arrow next to our answer choices is important. Because remember, you get exhausted during an AP test, and so you're going to forget which direction things are going if you don't write it. So increasing taxes, I would write off to the side. That's fiscal policy, but that's contractionary. And we're looking for something that's expansionary. So that's contractionary. D is expansionary fiscal policy. D is the correct answer here, and it's going to increase aggregate demand by raising government spending. So that will boost and get us out of a recession. And E, what is E? Not only is it monetary, it's contractionary monetary. So it's the exact wrong answer because it's going the wrong way and it's the wrong policy. It is very goofy. You're right, Scott. Okay. Raising your hand? No. Okay, stretching. All right, scrolling down. Talking about crowding out. A crowding out is a decrease in. Then anybody put down arrows next to each of these answer choices. Do that now. Let's get a good test-taking strategy before, it counts. Put down arrows next to each one of your choices because it says a decrease in. We need to know that those things are decreasing. Okay. Off to the side. We need to talk about what crowding out is caused by. What caused crowding out?
Expansionary.
Okay, so next, from the word crowding out, expansionary what? Fiscal policy, not monetary policy, fiscal. So next to the word crowding out, I would say caused by expansionary fiscal policy. Because remember, expansionary fiscal policy is lowering taxes and or raising government spending. What does that do to our budget, the government budget? Okay, so this is a government deficit. And yes, Anna, that is going directly to which graph? Vulnerable funds. So let's draw it on here. Okay, so anyone remember what's on the y-axis of vulnerable funds? I said y. Real interest rates. Quantity of vulnerable funds is just regular demand, regular supply. No aggregate, no long run, just supply and demand, vulnerable funds. And when the government runs a deficit because they did expansionary fiscal policy, they cut taxes, or maybe they raise spending, either way, they're going to need to go to the banks. Probably what bank are they going to go to? The Federal Reserve, the central bank. And so they're probably going to go to the central bank and they're going to take out loans, which means either less supply of loans available or more demand. Which one do you got? Whatever you like, you draw it. I always think less supply of loans, but if you want to think more demand for loans, that's fine. Either of them are correct. I want to do less supply, but if you want to do more demand, you do that. They take all the money that the bank has to pay off their deficit. What happens to interest rates? They go up. Whether you shifted demand for loans to the right or supply of loans to the left, interest rates are going to go up with either of them. Expansionary fiscal policy raises interest rates and crowds out private investment. Businesses take out less loans because loans are too expensive now. And there's not even any money available for them to begin with. So on 14, which answer choice says that? C. Private investments due to increased borrowing by the government. A decrease in private investment because we added that little down arrow. There's less businesses taking out loans because loans are too expensive. Why are they too expensive? Because the government borrowed all the money. Okay. Any questions on 14 or crowding out? What's that face? Okay. All right, scrolling down. When an economy is at full employment, which of the following will most likely create demand pull inflation in the short run? If you have nothing drawn here, I need you to draw an aggregate supply demand in long run equilibrium and then a rightward shift of aggregate demand. So draw it first off in long run equilibrium and then just do a rightward shift of aggregate demand. Boop, 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 boop. So this is us creating a demand pull inflationary gap where prices are going up and GDP is going to go up. Remember, this type of gap is unsustainable, which is why we don't say more GDP leads to longer economic growth, because that would just mean that an inflationary gap is good. Oh, that's longer economic growth, that's the same thing. No, it is not. FOPs is longer economic growth. This is just more spending. More spending does not grow the economy. More production does. So the question is asking, which of the following is going to increase aggregate demand? What type of policy is A? It's monetary, but is it expansionary or contractionary? It's contractionary. Those of you that are in the spring semester should definitely remember that. We just had a test over this. So A is contractionary monetary policy. If I could write on this, I would put CFM, and therefore lower aggregate demand. Contractionary monetary policy. What I say? CMP. Wow, what did I? FM. Fiscal monetary, maybe. Fiscal. Yeah, contractionary fiscal monetary. Okay. What type of policy is B? It's expansionary. No, it is contractionary fiscal policy on B. Contractionary policy does what to aggregate demand? It decreases. Contractionary, whether it's fiscal or monetary policy, decreases aggregate demand.
Yeah.
Okay. My fall semester kids, this has been a while. I'm assuming that you're also looking at stuff outside of tutoring, just to glance at it, so you're not going in completely cold. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. What's C?
That one.
C is correct. A decrease of real interest rates will shift aggregate demand to the right, but why not D?
Because it's C.
What is D?
Contractionary fiscal.
Contractionary fiscal policy. Government spending is fiscal policy. What is E? Contractionary monetary policy. So the only one that's not contractionary is going to be C. A decrease of real interest rates boosts aggregate demand. Hey, while we're here, I know that this is going to seem very elementary for you spring semester kids, but fall semester kids, maybe let's just go over our aggregate demand shifters and our aggregate supply shifters.
Okay.
Maybe let's draw this off to the side somewhere. What are the shifters of aggregate demand? Changes in?
Technology.
Government spending.
Stop. I'm sorry. I said aggregate demand. I did not say aggregate supply.
My bad.
CIPXN.
C plus I plus G plus XN. Consumer spending.
Government spending.
Government spending.
Investment spending.
2 plus 1 is the same thing as 1 plus 2. Investment spending, which is?
Exports minus imports.
Okay, XN, which is net exports, which is exports minus imports. Okay, now let's do in order for aggregate supply because there's an acronym. It's 9P. What's N?
Number of sellers.
Number of sellers. What's I?
Input prices.
Input prices. What's T?
There you go.
E.
Expectations
Of
future prices.
But yes, it's not just any expectations. It's expectations of future prices specifically. P. Productivity. It's not Miss Taylor expects. It's Miss Taylor expects there's going to be inflation. That's what I mean by expectations of future prices. It can't be like, I expect there to be better jobs in the future. That is not expectations. It's expectations of, I expect prices to go down. Okay. On 11. Oh, yes, math. Math is fun. Everyone enjoys math. Who is that? Donnie, what are you doing? Wow. Parade. Okay. On 11. The MPC is 0.25. There's a 15 billion increase in government spending. This will lead to a maximum of national income by what? What is national income? GDP.
Right?
Let's write all of the equations that we need to know for MPC and MPS right here.
Chill.
Chill.
So you're gonna read the whole thing right there. No, we don't do that.
Oh, no, I'm just one at a time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have, let's start from the very beginning. MPC. MPC is change of consumption over change of income. MPS is change of savings over change of income. MPC plus MPS added together is going to be equal to 1. The spending multiplier, which is KS, is going to be 1 over MPS. The tax multiplier, which is KT, is negative MPC over MPS. Remember how MPS always goes on the bottom? Why? Because your shoes go on your feet. MPS goes on the bottom because your shoes always go on your feet. I said that in some classes and some classes not so much. Okay. KS plus KT equals 1. KS is always greater. Crap. KS is always greater than KT. Carson, you okay over there?
No.
All right.
Outrageous.
Okay, what do you do with this KS and KT? I don't know. Multiply it by the S or the T. So the spending multiplier, you guessed it, is multiplied by spending. And that gives you the change in GDP. Yes, most of these questions are going to be government spending changes, but it could be any spending changes. I don't know if you remember that one test question where it's all like, in Lawrencetown, where citizens tend to spend 90% of any increase of income and they change their GDP or I don't know, people are spending $5,000 and it was $5,000 times 10. I don't know. The answer was $50,000. It was E. But that was I do that question a lot apparently. So change of taxes times KT gives you that change in GDP. So on question 11, MPS is given to you at 0.25.
Wait, is it the change in spending or is it just spending?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Scott.
Making sure.
All right. How do I know which one to use on this question? Kia, how do I know which one to use? This question.
What? It says to save.
Kia, be present. Okay. Yeah. That's what I already said. Which answer? It says government spending, so you'll never guess. It's spending. So circle that. That's spending.
Oh, yeah.
The MPS is 0.25. So the spending multiplier here is going to be 1 over 0.25. 1 over 0.25 is 4. 4 times the spending. In this case, it looks like government spending is increasing by 15 billion. So it's 15 billion times 4 gives you the change of GDP of 60. 60 billion on that question. That's letter A. Any questions on this page? Okay. Move to the next page. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions. We actually already did 29 together. We did that the other day, and I didn't even catch it when I was making this. So I'm going to give some time. Only 4 minutes though, because technically we did 29 together already. So 4 minutes for those other questions. Go. Let's go over. All right, 38. The marginal propensity to consume formula is on the board. It's change of consumption over change of income. And that's right, but none of the answer choices say that. It is not a percentage of total income that is spent on consumption. It is not A. It's not total. Does anyone know what A is describing? APC. MPC means there's been some sort of change in your income and therefore change of consumption. So A is saying something, but it's saying it's describing APC, average propensity to consume, and not marginal propensity to consume. On C, it does not increase as incomes increase because richer people actually spend a smaller percentage of their income. So poor people are going to have a very large MPC. Rich people are going to have a very small MPC. So that's just the opposite. No, it is not the same thing as the money multiplier, but it does determine the size of the spending multiplier, which is what B is saying. It does the simple spending multiplier just as a fancy, less fancy way, I don't know, to say the spending multiplier because the equation is 1 over MPS. And MPC determines MPS because it's either one or the other. And so, yeah, the formula for the spending multiplier is 1 over MPS, and MPC minus MPS is equal to 1. No, MPC plus MPS is equal to 1. Okay, on 19. Did anyone get 19?
D.
It is P as in dog.
It's D.
On 19, yes. Okay, so here's how the formula works out. I think fall semester kids got this on a test, but not spring semester, maybe. Okay, so MPC is 0.8. That whole autonomous consumption is 400 is extra information. It is not relevant to the question. It says if the marginal propensity to consume is 0.8 and disposable income increases by $1,200, consumption spending will increase by. So in terms of this formula, MPC formula, it's giving you MPC, it's giving you your change of income, and it's asking what about the change of consumption. So it's asking you to solve for, the numerator. So if MPC is 0.8 and 0.8 is equal to change of consumption over change of income, and the change of income is $1,200, you are solving for the numerator, you're solving for consumption. And if you work that way around and get it to where you're solving for X, it's 960. Because that is 80% of $1,200. Because if you spend 80% of anything and you get $1,200, you're going to spend 80% of that. So if you just actually multiply 1,200 times 0.8, you'll get the same number. Okay, hopefully no one got 23 wrong. 23 is what we consider a level 1 question. There's no thinking involved, it's just the axes. The short-run Phillips curve has a negative relationship, meaning the short-run Phillips curve is downward sloping because of the x and y axis. On the y-axis is inflation, on the x-axis is unemployment. Okay, what, you done? Just put it over there. In the space that we have here, let's actually draw let's draw everything we need to know about the Phillips curve. So, like we said, on the y-axis is inflation. How can we, if you want to be fancy, you want to impress your graders, pi. Okay, you don't have to do that though. Unemployment. Remember, we have short run Phillips curve looks like that. Short run Phillips curve. Long run Phillips curve. Okay, let's just off to the side do a quick recap. What creates a movement on the short run Phillips curve? A shift of 80. So when aggregate demand increases, it's a movement. Where? Up or down the Phillips curve? Up. Okay, a movement up the short run Phillips curve. When aggregate demand decreases, it's a movement down the short run Phillips curve. So by changing my color of my marker here, this would be demand pull inflation at point up, while a point down here would be a recession. What about aggregate supply though? Opposite direction. Those of you that are on your phone, you don't have to be here. This is optional. If you're going to be here, be present. Okay, short run Phillips curve. If it was to shift to the right, remember that's an increase for aggregate supply. That's going up. Then the short. No, sorry. Aggregate supply. If short run aggregate supply shifts to the right, which is just more aggregate supply, the short run Phillips curve shifts left. And vice versa. If short run aggregate supply shifts left, which is a decrease, then the short run Phillips curve shifts right. Shifts in opposite directions. Remember, it's cancer and herpes.
Whoa.
Remember that?
Not really.
No. I talked about cancer and herpes both semesters, I think.
Cancer and herpes.
Cancer and herpes. A movement is like you have more cancer, but your herpes is in remission. Like your cancer is down, but your herpes are back. But then a rightward shift is like your herpes has cancer and your cancer has herpes. But a shift inwards is like they're both in remission. Yeah.
Say what?
That there's a trade-off. These are two bad things. A rightward shift of this graph is not good. A rightward shift on literally every other graph is good. But here it's all like, you have higher prices and higher inflation. That is bad.
So you want to shift on that graph?
You want to shift inwards?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. 29. 29. Oh, we've already done before in a previous tutoring session. What was it? D. Yeah. All right. 24 then. Which of the following can be expected to cause an increase in GDP in the short run? So we're looking for something that either increases aggregate demand or something that increases aggregate supply. That's me graphing. That's me like drawing it. Ooh.
Oh, cool.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. What does A do?
It's bad.
Does A increase aggregate? Does A increase aggregate demand?
No.
No. A decreases aggregate demand. Little downward arrow for aggregate demand on that one. What about B?
No.
That decreases aggregate demand. We're looking for something that increases aggregate demand. What about C?
Doesn't do anything.
Keeps it the same. They cancel each other out. If you raise imports and exports by the same amount, that doesn't do anything to net exports, and so aggregate demand stays the same. But between D and E, which also doesn't do anything because it cancels out.
E.
Investment spending and government spending are both spending. And so they're going to cancel each other out. But D will not cancel each other out completely. Why? The multipliers are different. There's a tax change, which will be multiplied by KT, and a spending change will be multiplied by KS. And so on letter D, spending is greater than taxes. So you're still going to have a boost of aggregate demand here. It's not going to cancel each other out like B and or like C and D does. C and E does. Any questions on this page? 29 was D, yes. We did that last week sometime. All right. 3 more multiple choice questions. 27, 36, and 42. I'll give you a couple minutes. By my computer.
It's not that bad. Sorry. I got it all wrong. Something else.
Probably rats.
Probably. Alright, we're good.
Ready? Okay. 27 stagflation. This is a you either know or you don't. There's no reasoning here. It's level 1. Stagflation is only a leftward shift of aggregate supply. What else? What else is it called? Cost push inflation. So let's draw a picture of it. This is what stagflation looks like. A leftward shift of aggregate supply, where you have higher prices and a lower GDP.
That's terrible.
That is terrible. That is also a rightward shift of the Phillips curve.
Is that right now?
Inflation is not as bad as it has been. So it's coming back down.
It's cost push.
Cost push inflation and stagflation. Those are synonyms.
Is there like a percentage?
Of like when it gets bad.
Like inflation increased this percent.
I don't know. I think it's about length of time, maybe.
Okay.
Okay, 36. An increase in personal taxes would most likely cause aggregate demand and aggregate supply to change in which of the following ways. I believe this was a most missed question first semester, I think, on a test. So income taxes affects consumer spending, which is an aggregate demand shifter. But if they raise taxes, what happens to aggregate demand, left or right?
Left.
Left. So aggregate demand is decreasing. So you can get rid of A, you can get rid of B, you can get rid of E. But how does it affect aggregate supply?
Not at all.
It does not. It is not a change of number of sellers or input prices or technology or any of those. Because it says personal income taxes. If it was corporate income taxes, then probably aggregate supply would decrease as well. But it just says personal income taxes, which affects consumption and not aggregate supply. So it should be C. Yeah. It would be an input price. If corporations have to pay more in taxes, that leaves less money for other resources. And so aggregate supply is just left. Okay. Let's draw this one. I'll just put it over here. If it references a graph on a question, you need to draw the graph. I've never had anyone not finish the AP test just because they were drawing graphs. Okay. They might have lied to me. Okay. When firms restructure their operations to decrease production costs, this is input prices. So I would highlight this or underline it, not to the side. I'd say lower input prices. Lower input prices. It's cheaper to produce. So aggregate supply is going to shift to the right because it's cheaper to produce. You can produce more. And now we just draw our new equilibriums. It looks like prices went down. So price level decreased and real GDP, real output increased. Which answer choice says that? D. Shift to the right, price level decrease, GDP increased. Okay. Let's go to the very first FRQ. We'll practice math in a little bit. Bless you. Okay, very front page, first FRQ. I'm going to give you, this is considered a long FRQ. So you would typically have 25 minutes to do this. I'm not giving you 25 minutes today. I'll give you 15.
Sounds good.
15 minutes to do the very first FRQ. Yeah.
You label your aggregate supplies as aggregate supply, not short run aggregate supplies that as well.
That's fine. You just can't do that with long run. You can do short run that way, but not long run.
You're lying. Good.
I see what happened. Dude, let me try to stay there. Just kidding.
Soil and water management, access and management, agricultural economics. Let's see. I take a class of electricity, but it's like I have to take 3 years of well.
That was my tutoring. Why that tutoring? Is it on
Taking a marching class.
some other class for them to do flowers?
Huh?
Yeah.
Alright. That's a science.
They are just a combination or like a line somewhere.
I just can't wait to be in the all ones. God, I think I could have told her that you would You didn't really luck out. You're going
Never gonna come out of my home.
Actually,
I think so. Eventually. You know what? I've only been focusing on calculus so far. I'm not gonna lie. What? I just been thinking about calculus. That's it. You have an English What's that gonna look like?
No, that's actually probably the only one I was It's like multiple choice and
Kind of easy.
I know it's really not that bad. The one thing hard is like the poem essay.
Oh,
And
you can make a
the
poem?
you have
That'd be cool.
to analyze a poem.
Yeah, I actually regress. I thought. I've been awake. Oh yeah. At least I'm awake. Knowing this whole time is Alright, let's go.
Okay, are we ready? That has not been nearly a month. Let's have 4 more minutes left.
Checking cards?
it's an automatic shucker.
I will give you 2.
They like take the card.
Okay, no, shucking is when you take the green part off. This is a
Oh,
new
really?
kind of shucking. This is like a new
Where
That's the same thing. It doesn't. It's not really important.
No, shucking is the green in the hair.
That's checking it, no?
No.
I thought that was the whole thing.
Yes, yes, it is.
No, the shucking is when those guys take the machete and like.
No, I thought shucking was when you took the green part.
That's what I was saying.
That's what that is?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's like popcorn making.
Bro, what?
It's not making feel comfortable. It's so obvious.
that was a guy.
How do you feel like now?
How do I feel? Why?
Does that just make you feel vulnerable?
What?
Never mind.
That video.
Nothing
There,
makes me
that's
feel
video
vulnerable.
deep into it.
You're strong in your masculinity.
Nothing.
Yeah, your FRQ is in.
My FRQ is just fine. I think I can pass with this.
I don't think it's the same as calculus. I don't think the curve is the same.
Wait, it should be there. There has to be a curve, right? Is there a
Because more,
curve?
I think people tend to do better on this than calculus.
How much is there on
Because
calculus?
calculus is so hard. It's like if you get a 50, you're like above average.
It's just like, wow, you sophisticated gold star.
See,
I
that's
think
why
the national average is higher on this. So you don't have
I
to
don't know.
usually make
I feel like I'm gonna do worse on this than I will on the calculus one.
Okay, let's go over. Lucy, you good? Yep. Okay. All right.
What's the least amount of work I need to do to get that 5?
Yeah.
Or a 3, sorry.
Yeah, 5 that ship has sailed, but 3
Yo, what?
in this class, a 5 means you made A's pre-curve.
I did.
It's really.
I know.
She said, oh.
Not the first 9 weeks, but the second 9 weeks.
That second 9 weeks you did, there was a blow up for sure. Okay,
So,
on A, you are below full employment. We're starting from recessionary gap. Arm 1. We haven't even started.
what's the 3?
What's what?
What's the 3?
What's a 3? Oh, yeah, I kind of started that sentence and I never finished it. A 3 is at 55%. On multiple choice, we have 60% rights on FRQs.
Basically calculus.
You should be able to get a 3. Everyone in here should be able to get a 3.
I'm sorry.
A 5 is a 90.
Yeah.
So it's hard to, it's easy to pass, it's hard to get a 5.
What if you
Most of my scores are 4s and 3s.
probably asked this before, but how many FRQs are there?
3. 1 long, This is an example of a long one, two shorts. Okay.
Yeah, I want to do the long one. I'm gonna do the short one.
All right, A. We are drawing an average supply and demand graph in a recessionary gap.
Show us.
All right, it does not say what to label it as. Usually it does, and crap, see, that's what happens when I talk and draw at the same time. Usually it says label your equilibriums, blah, 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 but it doesn't. So as long as you do label them, it doesn't matter how you label them. I'm just going to do PL1, Y1, and like YFE. Okay. It says, suppose that the country's government increases spending to achieve full employment output. On your graph in part A, show the short-run effect that the increase in deficit spending have on each of the following. How it affects aggregate demand, output, and price level. And so aggregate demand is going to shift to the right. It does not matter how far to the right. I would just go to equilibrium. Yeah. Time's up. Okay.
No way.
No, for the FRQ. Okay. Price level 2. Okay, you need arrows because it says show the effect on each of the following. If you shift it and there are no arrows, then you are not even answering the question. You're not answering the question. Okay, on C, it says use a correctly labeled loanable funds graph to show the effect of the increase in deficit spending on the real interest rate. Let's say you come to the day of the test, Jack, and you forget how you label the graph. How would you find out what the labeling is?
In the question?
It tells you in the question. It says show the effect on the real interest rate. It always tells you the y-axis labeling in the question. And when in doubt, x-axis is Q. If you don't know, like if you have to guess, if you're like completely you don't know. All right, so we have real interest rate on the y. This is Q of loanable funds. Regular demand, regular supply, no aggregate, no long run. Ones and ones is fine. So you could have one of two answers here. Deficit spending, either, I'll just draw both. Real interest rates are going to go up either way because deficit spending either will shift supply of loanable funds to the left because the government's going to pay for this deficit by borrowing money from the banks. There's less supply of loans available for everybody else once the government takes all those loans, which jacks up the interest rate right there. Or you can say the fact that the government taking loans out is just increasing demand for loans because they're demanding more loans to pay for all their extra spending. And that increases the interest rate there. Either of those answers are right. One is not more right than the other. On D, it says, given your answer in part C, explain. You can't just say it appreciates or depreciates. You have to explain how the international value of the currency will be affected. Like what's going on. So here's what I put. I said, the currency will appreciate since higher real interest rates will increase the demand for a currency from foreign investors looking to earn more on financial investments. You have to say something about earning more on foreign financial investments. You can't say anything else about prices. You can't talk about taking out loans. You can't say anything like that. Irrelevant. You have to say there's going to be more demand for that currency because people want to save their money there since interest rates are high. And that will cause it to appreciate.
Just to explain why the interest rates went higher, like.
No, the explanation, the graph tells you that the interest, you didn't talk about crowding out, but you already went through the crowding out process. So you do not need to explain why interest rates are high, but you do need to explain why high interest rates would appreciate a currency. Any questions on D? Anything you want to run by me to see if it would have gotten points? Yes.
What if I did nothing on there?
Scott? Currency will appreciate since higher interest rates will increase demand for a currency since foreign investors are looking for a higher return on investments. They're looking for a higher return. They want to save their money where interest rates are high, and that will cause it to appreciate. Sophia, you got to put your poppet away.
Oh.
Okay. Arm. Then it's wrong. There's no partial credit. It's wrong.
So lame.
Sorry. Because it's literally 50-50. Imagine getting a college credit Because because 50-50.
You're not past the pocket.
No. See, that's the opposite.
Sophia, standing ground.
Okay, on E, it says based off your answer in part D. What is our answer in part D? It appreciates. Based off that, and only that, the fact that it appreciates, respond to each of the following. On I, it says explain. You can't just say exports do this and imports do that. Without an explanation, it is wrong. So it says explain the effect on the country's exports and imports. Here's my scenario. I said exports go down and imports go up since their goods are now relatively expensive and imports are relatively cheap. Yay.
You recommend explaining both sides, or can you just do one with an actual? It says both. I'm sorry.
You can't explain exports and only exports and not talk about imports. Yes. Okay. Don't do that either. Okay. And then it says identify the effect on the country's trade balance. Well, if you notice that it started off with a balanced trade, but because this is me adding, because we're exporting less and importing more, the trade balance will move into deficit. That's all you need to say. The trade balance will go into deficit, or there will be a deficit in the trade balance, or XN will be negative. Okay, question.
I said outflow and current account.
There's more things in the current account besides trade. It could be unilateral transfers or profit made on foreign financial investments. So saying that there's an outflow is not specific enough. But there's more things in the current account than just trade. While I love the connection to other things, it's too vague. Yeah. Okay. All right, and last but not least, F. Given the results of vulnerable funds, which is right here, explain how this deficit spending would influence long-run economic growth. Once again, it says explain. So just by saying long-run economic growth goes down, it's not enough. Yes, it goes down. Long-run economic growth goes down because higher interest rates will negatively impact capital goods. There will be less capital goods, pizza ovens, because loans are too expensive. So you have to say long-run economic growth goes down, and you have to say either less resources, less factors of production, less capital goods, or less, you can say capital stock. You could throw that in there. What? Less investment on capital. But here's the thing. If you just say less investment, investment is spending, and spending is aggregate demand. But if you say less investment in capital, the capital is a resource, and that is why you get it. If you say less spending, enjoy no college credit for this one.
Capital?
Less capital is fine.
Okay.
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 All right, we're gonna go to the next FRQ. This one's a little bit trickier. Just a tad. Okay, I'm gonna give you 12 minutes. Or 15. I'll give you 15. I mean, I will give you more time if you need more time, but for all being goofy, then no.
Are you tapping out right now?
I know, that's why I said it.
Not tapping out.
Why do you have to go?
For the job that you don't have.
Oh.
Hey, Donnie.
Oh, what's this? It's A.
Yeah.
That is the question that we don't say
It's
out
just
loud.
that every single year that Nice, got it.
Bye.
It was fun sitting with you.
See.
Bye.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
Go ahead. That's right.
Shame.
Who's
They
Shane?
walked out. Well, I was not paying attention. You don't have to put 500. I'll just add date.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so
They are trying to
stop. No, this was the
No, incorrect.
Stop looking at me, I'm not gonna look.
I can't wait to hear your hypothetical hypothesis on my answers. Go ahead. I'm sorry, they're going up. Make sure. Make sure that I copy you. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Does it say, says, given the results of the level funds market, and that exports does not affect how many resources we have, and it doesn't affect how many. So even if you were looking at a different thing, you could be wrong. I think I took pieces of it, but not the whole thing. Okay.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
Oh.
No. That number is something for later on that you refer to.
Oh, yeah, I just draw like.
You just draw a position again.
She will think that's a comment for you. What is this? You're too smart.
I don't know what.
How many quarters are in there? Here.
Four.
His is even, don't, you know, have comment that. What?
That's not even working. I haven't read it. I think we're doing
Market.
So the demand.
Sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, join the group.
Oh,
Not our group.
This isn't a.
Yeah, come on over, Scott. No, Scott.
really? It is? Wait, so that means I got the credit for A and B?
I did not see a,
It's just a graph.
okay, well, did you label everything correctly?
Yeah. It says right here.
No.
The what? I didn't read the part. That's a good catch right there, too. Damn.
Kian, you have not finished the course yet. He's finished the course, you have not finished the course.
Oh, so interesting. I want to see if you help me out then. I didn't say.
I know. I made no problem.
So,
Anyway, yes, yes. What do you want?
no. I got it right.
How much sense you
tax.
Why can't you shift the money supply because it's fiscal policy, not monetary policy? Okay, question. Is that why? We shift the demand and not the supply because the shipments of demand are transactions, correct?
Just half of it.
Fiscal transactions.
Half of it.
So if GDP increases, price levels are higher, they need more physical money.
Yes,
So how come you want to shift the supply instead?
because that's requiring monetary policy.
I knew it. Scott.
Yeah, what? What?
I asked,
Was I wrong?
I said that, and then I
So,
was like,
I thought it had
no,
nothing to
that's
do
not
with
right.
each
And I
other.
was like, yes.
I thought fiscal's like taxes, right?
Yeah.
Monetary is like money supply.
so would it mention?
So then, did they talk about money supply? Did they talk about monetary policy?
I didn't read it. I just did the first one.
It's not.
I did the first two because it's the easiest one. I got half credit, basically. Almost.
So basically, GDP shifts up.
Are you doing a replacement grant?
I am, but it won't be until after the 18th.
Why?
Because I'm doing tutoring every day until then. And we're gonna have a reminder in the that'll beat out all my time.
The mock AP test is so hard, right?
Mock AP test is not hard.
It's so hard.
Who was your partner?
Isa?
You had a good partner.
Oh, so then it was him.
Yeah. It's just not hard.
We all did behind your job.
We did really good.
The supply.
Yeah, this whole like spin the wheel partner thing, giving them more.
It could be so much worse. Your class is fine. There are some classes you don't know what it does.
Oh my god. Miss Taylor, do you remember Katrina?
The guy with the always weird that I don't know how he still just has the whole cheaters.
Miss Taylor.
She always does this.
Miss Taylor. Katrina,
Has he told you? No, but you're assuming.
They don't, that's okay. We're gonna make it a beer.
So you put more money in your bank, so you multiply your money.
He was like, you don't Mr. Taylor last year. Okay.
Oh my god.
you never like that.
You just kind of insulted them.
This demand.
That doesn't make sense because you don't.
You're absolutely. I know.
On the fundamental ground.
It increases.
Why?
When people buy more things, so then it gets more money.
Well, the demand is.
So you know this, you don't know this. I know this, everybody do, I know that. That's why I got to push whatever he was supposed to say. Someone got, I graduated the other way.
And so the session A, the first session is like the thing that shift money to the end was like extremely price level, you know, there's like price level, technology, and something else.
I think technology. It's a technology.
Yeah, I think it did.
Yes, money demand is caused by changing technology. Oh, that's not the same thing. That's what he said. Okay.
So, did you not see that? What just left? Like, ran?
Yeah.
Did you just call her someone?
Right,
Yes, someone.
just the wrong one.
I can expose it, let's just. Yeah, that's pretty easy.
As you increase it in demand for money, impact real.
Well, real interest rate is supposed to be, so that's phenomenal.
That's asking for real.
Yeah,
Or that, that's asking for real.
Oh, the next one. So you know nominal is track, should, on the money market graph, you should do something, nominal interest rates change. Right? Nominal interest for that?
We didn't have a graph.
And you did. So the money
Oh,
market
yes, I did.
graph
Yes, we
nominal.
did, yes.
And nominal interest was when that.
Oh, the expression to change, that means not real also.
Answer my question. When they graph.
Yes, nominal.
Okay, nominal.
I think they just saw me sprint up.
Oh.
I do have Wi-Fi.
You don't know the percent of the.
No, it's, no, I'll see
It's not the time.
Oh, change it.
Yeah, there's so many. I think they use 5 pages per.
So.
No, we're going over it. Oh. Okay, we're graphing correctly. Everything after you shift. Oh, no, you just change GDP up here. And so it's like, how does this change GDP affect this graph? If GDP goes up. Oh, I'm actually going to. Go ahead.
I do.
Wow, good thing, good thing. Miss Taylor, did anybody get that? No, no one did. One person did ask if they were gone that day. They narrowed it down to Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen. And they were like, what did we talk about that day? I wasn't here. I was like, oh, come on, we definitely talked about yes. And he's like, yeah, but how much was the yes? And I'm like, part of even saying that. Okay. Let's go over this very fun FRQ.
Inflation is not changing. Expected inflation is not changing.
Okay.
You have 2 years to decide, like, that way,
All right. All right. You are more likely to get an FRQ that looks like this than the first one. If you took AP Eco 10 years ago, it looks like this. It would literally ask, what are the things that shift aggregate demand? Now, they're statists. And so they're going to ask you questions like this. Very similar to this. Where it's a little bit of everything. And it throws you off. So let's do this. We're in a recession. How do I know that? Because I read the very first line and I didn't skip right to letter A, but I started reading the question where the question actually begins. So we're in a recession. So we're labeling everything.
Why would you do that, sir?
Because even though it's a time test, I'm going to take mine. Okay, it's PL1, Y1, and then it says YF. You have to have those labels on there because it tells you which one to label. And here's a hint. If they're asking you to label Y1 and YF, it's not fully employed because it's telling you to label two Ys. So that should be a dead giveaway. Like if you drew like full employment and you're like, I'm labeling it again, you messed up. So go back, make sure there's a gap in there, whatever. On B, it says the MPC is 0.8. MPC is 0.8. What's the maximum amount of government spending required to increase aggregate demand by the amount of the recessionary gap? So we need a GDP to change by 500 billion. So some sort of spending times the spending multiplier is going to give us some sort of change in GDP. The GDP is given to us at 500 billion. I don't know the spending multiplier, but I have enough information to solve for it. The MPC being 0.8 means the NPS is 0.2 because them added together equals 1. And so the spending multiplier, which is 1 over 0.2, you guys get to use a calculator, fantastic, that is 5. So the spending multiplier is 5. So the change in spending required to close a gap of 500 billion is going to be $100 billion in spending is required on letter B. On C, it says, suppose instead the government decides to reduce personal income taxes with no change in government spending. In order to increase aggregate demand by the amount of the recessionary gap of 500 billion, would the tax cut needed be greater than, less than, or equal to the change in the government spending that you identified in Part B and explained? Okay, because the spending multiplier yields a bigger impact on GDP than the tax multiplier, the change in taxes that you need will be bigger or greater than the spending change. Because that multiplier for taxes is going to be a number less than 5. So obviously I need a bigger change in taxes because the multipliers will have a less of an impact if I want my answer still to be 500 billion in GDP change. So you could technically, if you don't love the KS is greater than KT explanation, you know what the tax multiplier should be. If the spending multiplier is 5, the tax multiplier is going to be negative 4. So you have to say, like you could show math. What is 500 divided by 4? 125? Yes. You would need taxes to be changed by 125, which is a greater number than the spending change to have the same impact on GDP. So you could do the numbers as your evidence, as your explanation. You don't have to. You can just say the spending multiplier is bigger than the tax multiplier. On D, just kidding. Show the impact of the tax cut on your average spending demand graph. Labeling the new price level PL2. So I'm going to change color really quickly. Tax cuts increase consumer spending because consumers have more money to spend, and so aggregate demand is going to shift all the way back to equilibrium. We're going to label this new equilibrium PL2. I'm also going to show arrows between my equilibriums. Okay, now we draw a label across label graph of money market. Show the impact of the increase of nominal GDP on the equilibrium nominal interest rate. Fall semester kids, you label this graph incorrectly. I kind of get it. It's been a long time. Spring semester kids, we literally had the test over this on Friday. So shame for those of you that had an upward sloping money supply curve, because money supply is vertical. Money demand is downward sloping, quantity of money, boop, 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 boop. Okay. What's just money supply?
Monetary policy.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Monetary policy. Nowhere does it say that they are doing any monetary policy. They talk about fiscal policy a lot with taxes and spending, but nowhere are they talking about monetary policy. So, this is something, hey Tawny.
Is NIR nominal interest rate?
It is, nominal interest rate. It's fine, it's fine.
Do you have to label it there, or could you say like something else, or does it have to be that?
Well, it literally says, show the effect on the equilibrium nominal interest rate. So I'm going to say that, yeah, you probably need to label it nominal interest rate.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so be looking for like
Arm.
a part or a
Where does the money
circle.
have to be to be simple?
Yeah, I like that better.
What?
Where does the money have to be like considered in the supply?
Maybe like an
Okay, so while monetary policy is another day, I will answer this question here because my spring semester kids just took a test over this. Money supply is M1. So what are things in M1?
Traveler's check.
Traveler checks, what else?
Demand deposits.
Demand deposits, which is
Cash and
checking accounts.
coins.
Cash and coins.
Money.
Physical cash and coins, coins and demand deposits, and traveler's checks. Arm?
If I spend money, would that decrease the money supply?
No.
You're not money, it's not monetary. It goes back into the others. It's still in your MD. Just go away. It's still in your MD.
You get the macroeconomics. Money supply is all money in circulation, not just arms money. You are part of everything, but you are not everything.
Yeah, but whatever you pay is also for the economy.
That is the point.
Wow, that was so deep. Okay. We're all part of one thing, guys. All right. Spring semester. We have not talked about this yet. When was I planning on talking about it? During review as like a 10-second conversation. But money demand does shift. I did not want to give you another curve on this last test because God, do you think you could have like taken any more content in that unit? No. So the money demand does shift. Maddie, if there's more GDP and there's more spending, what do you think people need?
They need more money.
They need more money. If there was only a way to show needing more money, I don't know, maybe money demand. Oh, P.S. So what are the shifters of money demand? Aggregate demand. They're the same.
Transactions.
Transactions, buying things.
Physical and asset.
Buying things shifts money demand. People do not buy things, no money demand. People buy more things, more money demand. Simple as that. Luca?
This is on like a test about monetary policy, and they give you monetary policy. You know it has to be money supply. Like
Monetary policy.
yes. But
Yeah.
if that's not there, like this case, you shift the money demand. Like are those the only two?
Okay, so.
I'm so scared.
Okay.
Girl, I'm here for you right now.
No, this is just, she's asking a very legitimate question, and what she wants right now is a really easy answer. And to be like, here's how it's gonna be all the time. Do you remember that there's like automatic and discretionary fiscal policy and
Yes.
taxes and government spending like go up and down because of like welfare and tax brackets, things like that?
I do.
Okay, so monetary policy changes interest rates. So they can change them on purpose.
Yeah.
Buying bonds, over market offer, whatever. But no, just look away, okay? Hey, there's a recession. What happens to spending? Decreases when people are not spending. Do they need money?
No.
Money demand goes down. Oh my God, what happened to interest rates? Automatic monetary policy.
Oh, I remember that. Not really.
So I did not give that to you on the test because I did not need you to learn one more thing. Your brains were pretty capped. But in a quick review, when we talk about fiscal monetary policy, expansion, contraction, whatever, yes, that's technically monetary policy. It's just automatic monetary policy. But discretionary monetary policy, when they purposely like raise the discount rate, then it's the money supply curve.
Okay.
But this right here, it's just GDP going up and people need more money. Well, then they're going to need more money, and that's going to raise interest rates, which just kind of contract the expansion that's happening. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Very good question, but I knew that was going to be like tangent. All right, so interest rates just went up. And then it says on F, based on your answer in part E, which interest rates, nominal interest rates just went up. Well, what's going to happen to real interest rates in the United States, assuming there's no change in inflationary expectations? What type of question is this? This is a Fisher equation. How do I know that? Because every single part of the Fisher equation is present. It's asking about real interest rates, it's talking about inflationary expectations, and it's telling you to use your information about nominal interest rates to answer this question. And so on F, remember we have real interest rate is equal to nominal interest rate minus expected inflation. And in the previous question, we just shifted money demand to the right, and that increased nominal interest rates. So nominal interest rates are going up. And it says there is no change in inflationary expectations. So inflationary expectations is 0. There aren't any inflationary expectations, which means real is equal to up minus 0. So that's doing nothing. So real must be going up. Because in that case, real and nominal are the same because there's no inflation. Okay. Now based solely on the real interest rate change, because real interest rate just went up, what will happen to each of the following? What happens to the demand for the dollar in the foreign exchange market, and explain, and then what happens to the stock of physical capital, and explain. Once again, without explanations, it's just wrong. There's no partial credit. Every time you see the word explanation, just know you will receive 0 partial credit for direction change. They're not going to give you partial credit when it's like up or down, like no. All right, because that's just like based on luck. On G,
Exactly.
I said demand for the US dollar will increase since financial investments earn a higher return. So I'll say that again. Demand for the dollar will increase since financial investments are now earning a higher return. Yeah.
Because more money can be made off of savings.
That is fine.
Can you repeat your answer one more time?
Yes. Demand for the dollar goes up since financial investments earn a higher return. Demand for financial investments going up, higher return. And that last part, what happens to the stock of physical capital, and explain? Capital will go down because loans are now expensive. Capital will go down because loans are too expensive. Okay, turn to the back. Okay. Before we break out into some math stuff, I said that we're going to talk about the Laffer curve. I really doubt there's going to be too many questions about the Laffer curve. In all of College Board, like question bank, there's only one, and it was that one from the test, like yesterday. It purports to show that whatever. So I'm just going to draw it, and you can draw it at the bottom here. So on the Laffer curve, anyone remember what's on the x-axis here? The tax rate. Whoa. Wow. Rate. Tax rate. From 0 to 100%. And then this is going to be the government's revenue. That's how much money that the government collects. Oh, wow. Stop talking to me. All right. Gov revenue. All right.
I remember.
There is some number between 0 and 100 where more taxes actually brings in less revenue for the government. Because over here, people stop working. Because government taxes too much.
Yes.
So it's a larger percentage but of less money. That's this percentage. Okay, I'm going to give you one more trivia tidbit to remember about this whole unit, and it has to do with when taxes and government spending are going up by the same amount. Yeah, so when taxes and government spending go up by the same amount,
Oh, it's like 100.
well, whatever the amount is, yeah.
Yeah.
Taxes and government spending go up by the same amount, it will not cancel each other out. Aggregate demand and GDP still go up because the spending multiplier has a bigger impact than the tax multiplier. So they're not going to cancel each other out because its multipliers are going to be different. Okay, I'm going to give you some time to work on this, and then we'll grade, and then we'll be done.
Kia fell down, everybody. Just so you know. Kia tripped and she fell down.
She didn't hit the floor, so technically you didn't fall down. I just fell. I stumbled. Can I take my answers, please? Am I on the camera?
Yeah, you are. Say hi.
Remember, MPC is change of consumption over change of income, not just consumption over income. That would be APC, but some sort of change between.
Let's do it.
Hey, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, so how did it increase? Or it increased because it's just it's not specified. It could be something else. It's not.
Where's Luca? Oh, I know she ran. She was here.
That's not taxes.
I'm just sort of random. Okay. How do I know that? Yes, because that's MTS, right? So it's giving consumption, so I figured out MPC first. So MPC is change in consumption. So this first change is $15. So 15 on the numerator. Change of income is going to be $30. And so it's 15 over 30, which is 0.5. But then MPS would also be 0.5. Yeah, because the income goes on the denominator.
That's not a good idea.
Hi, Scott.
Hi.
Y'all always checking yourselves on your way out. No, I've got to pass it around. That doesn't matter. If you'd like to see the answers and head on out, they're on this table.
I can't. It's Taylor. It's like 4:30.
I have any energy.
Can I check on this?
Yeah, sure.